You mentioned that you've looked at lots of brains of people that have Alzheimer's. A bit of a dumb question, but what is the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? Or is it the same thing?
Yeah, no, it's a great question because everybody is confused. So dementia is sort of this general term. It's dementia, which means the loss of your mental abilities, dementating. So loss of cognitive ability is dementia. There are many subcategories of dementia, causes of dementia. The most common cause of dementia is Alzheimer's disease. It's the most common age-related cause of dementia. But then under Alzheimer's, there's also Parkinson's disease with Lewy body disease. There's something called frontotemporal lobar degeneration. Then there's, you get into odder and rarer diseases, progressive supranuclear palsy, Galmanian dementia, and somewhere down there is also CTE. So CTE is a cause of dementia.
Okay. And how do I avoid getting Alzheimer's?
Well, it's a very common disease. It's supposedly in over 50% of people that live to the age of 85. If you looked at their brains, half of them would have Alzheimer's disease. Not everyone gets the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease at 85, but they'd have the pathology. Now, things you can do to lessen the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease are, staying socially connected, using your brain, challenging your brain, because high cognitive reserve, high cognitive ability gives you strength, brain resilience against these diseases. So even if you have pathology, you can circumvent the areas of injury, the areas that aren't working well, and not experience the symptoms. So that's one thing. Physical activity, fitness, but also mental fitness, challenging your brain, keeping it active, developing a high cognitive reserve. And then the other things you can do is, stay fit, eat right. Cardiovascular health is intimately connected to Alzheimer's disease. You want to avoid high blood sugar, diabetes, because that can definitely hasten Alzheimer's disease. So it's really a story of staying healthy.
Alcohol?
Well, alcohol can damage your brain, and alcohol damages it in entirely different ways than Alzheimer's or CTE. But if you do drink alcohol, it can exacerbate your symptoms. It can make your symptoms worse. And, we don't have any direct connection between alcohol and Alzheimer's, but, we do know that it's not good for your brain health. It damages parts of the brain that can lead to cognitive problems.
Are these diseases increasing?
No, I think our awareness of these diseases is increasing. You know how we used to call it senile dementia? Like, oh, yeah, he's just getting old. So, we sort of dismissed it as just old age. But there are some people that live to very old ages that are perfectly intact. So these are abnormal aging. These are pathological aging. And we're much more aware of it than we were, say, 40 years ago. 40 years ago, we really had no concept how common this disease was.
Is there anything that you believe about the brain that most people disagree with still to this day?
I can't think so.
As it relates to Alzheimer's and CTE, is there any sort of fundamental beliefs that you're currently trying to prove out through your testing and the things you're doing at Boston University?
Well, I do. I have my own theories. I don't know if other people don't believe them, but I do feel that inflammation, anything that causes inflammation in your brain, and I think what a lot of people would agree with me, though inflammation is one of the key promoters of brain disease and neurodegeneration. So there's tremendous inflammation in Alzheimer's disease, tremendous inflammation in CTE. And if we could figure out sort of this bad inflammation, we might be able to prevent or at least stave off these terrible diseases. And the other thing that I think is very important is small vessel disease, vascular disease, the health of these small blood vessels that are so important in terms of giving oxygenating our brain. If they become damaged or injured through a variety of mechanisms, then we also see these diseases being accelerated. So, I think there needs to be a lot more attention to the earliest changes that are associated with these diseases. And in my mind, those are vascular changes and inflammation.
And what kinds of things cause inflammation in the brain?
Really, any insult to the brain. Certainly, if the blood vessels are damaged and they become leaky, you get substances leaking into the brain that irritate the brain and cause tremendous inflammation. The blood-brain barrier is a very tight barrier. You can have all sorts of toxins in your blood, but they're not getting into your brain because you have such a tight barrier between the blood and the brain. We keep out all sorts of noxious substances. But if you injure the blood vessels, they leak, and all those things that we are trying to keep out of our brain leak into the brain and promote inflammation. Those changes can facilitate neurodegeneration.
And the things that make those blood vessels become injured?
Well, trauma,
yeah.
That back and forth, but also things that affect vascular health, like high blood pressure,
sugar,
high cholesterol, blood sugar, exactly.
High cortisol.
Yeah.
Stress, I guess.
Stress, you want to reduce stress, you want to stay physically fit, you want to eat right. We all know that what you need to do. It's just those things that sleep is so important because at the end of the day, your sleep, you're actually clearing bad substances out of your brain. You have a clearance system in your brain that is most active when you sleep. And so when you're sleeping, it's pulling out the noxious chemicals, it's draining them into your system so you can get rid of them. So sleep is also critically important.
We probably have a few million parents listening at the moment to this conversation. And those parents, their kids are saying, I want to play rugby, I want to play soccer, I want to play American football, I want to do hockey, all these kinds of things. What would you say to those parents?
Well, every parent is different. Every child's different. You have to really understand your child. Is it that they need to play that particular sport, or could they be just as easily, could they be just as happy in a non-contact sport? There are plenty of non-contact sport. There are plenty of sports that have low risk. So I would promote all of those. And then if they're playing, they choose, if they think, if this is a decision that they want to make despite the risks, then, make sure the coach is very, very well, versed in some of the adverse consequences of concussions and those hits to the head, even the non-concussive hits. Make sure that there's good education of the player as well as the teammates as well as the coach, and then try to delay playing full contact as long as possible. I think you should delay it until the person's physically robust, with a musculature, with a strong neck, they're able to, resist hits. There's, a blindsided hit is much more damaging than a hit that you're expecting because you set your neck, you're expecting the hit, and it doesn't cause the whiplash that a blindsided hit causes.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.